Hello, everybody. My name is Lat Mackey, and this is Sequence Break IL, a look at speedrunning, game development, content creation, and everything in between. Thanks so much for listening and watching. It's great to have you here. Thanks so much for taking a look. So recently, I have been playing a lot of Mario. I've been playing Sure Shot, which is like a Kaizo Super Mario World ROM hack, and I'm still having a ton of fun, even though I haven't even gotten past the second level yet. And also been playing a lot of Super Mario Bros. 1 on the TurboGrafx-16. Yes, that is a real version of the game. There is a bootleg version. It was created somewhere in the early 90s, and basically some developers ported or hacked together the European release of Super Mario Bros. 1 and ported it to the TurboGrafx-16. And somebody at some point created a ROM from it, dumped it somehow, and I've been playing through that. I'm going to be doing it for a Retrothon in a little bit here. And just, I think might be time to grind for a 5-minute SMB1 run. But it got me reminding myself, I've just really been into Mario content recently, and I'm not 100% sure why. I've been playing a ton of Mario games. On the Switch, Super Mario Bros. 3, the Game Boy Advance version got released, and it has all of the extra levels that, you had to use the cards for. And so I've been playing through those. I've just been enjoying the heck out of Mario. Not sure why, but just kind of been in the Mario groove. On top of that, so my day job is I teach high school students, and quite often when they're working on a project, because we do game design and things like that, I'll play some music in the background for them. And I've been playing them a ton of music that was composed for various ROM hacks, Rampu World, Super Dram World, all these things that had original compositions by members of the community. And holy crap, is there some talented musicians and creators out there in the space. I already knew this, but just listening to only the soundtrack, only the music itself really has improved my appreciation for what these individuals do. And I love the creativity that goes into it. There's already an amazing amount of work and creativity that goes into creating a ROM hack. Put on top of that, the music is just, it's this wonderful collaboration that continues to keep happening with every ROM hack that we see. And not just in the Mario space, but in all of them. I'm playing through an Ocarina of Time ROM hack right now as well that has all original music. And it's literally blowing my mind with the amount of work that people are putting into this and the amount of creativity that's out there. It reminded me of a conversation I had back in July of 2020 with the one, the only composer. And he has done such an amazing amount of work and continues to do it in this area. I was so fortunate and so thankful to have him on the podcast, and we got a chance to talk through his process and how he works and what it's like being a musician and how he discovered all of these type of things. I'm only going to share a short clip for this video here, but I really do encourage you to go back. I know some of the sound quality isn't as great as it used to be. This is a few years ago, so I was still trying to figure things out. But the entire conversation, it's just really fascinating to hear composer talk. And this was during when we were all in like lockdown COVID type stuff as well. So take that in mind as you're listening. If you go back and listen to the full interview, I'll leave a link to it in the description. It's really cool to hear him talk. But I'm also going to be sharing some of my favorite music he's composed during this episode. I think one of the great ways that we get a chance to understand and have an appreciation for different artists is actually through their art. So while it's awesome, I love hearing about his process. I'm going to share it as part of this. I also think a great way to get to know an artist like this is through their actual work. So I'm going to include some of that as well in this clip, and I hope you enjoy. I'm hoping this. Also, going back and then listening to this episode again reminds me I need to have more musicians on the podcast. There is this really interesting connection. So many speedrunners I've met have some sort of musical interest or some sort of musical background, or they are interested in music. It's really interesting, the crossover between speedrunners and musicians. And quite often, throughout many conversations that I've had on this podcast, I play guitar, I play drums, I really enjoy composing music like this. And this is the first time I actually got to talk to somebody about the actual process of composition. And it's definitely something I'm going to continue to do as we move down the road. There are so many amazing artists in our little community. Need to get more of them on the podcast and hear how they do it. So here is a conversation from 2020 with the one, the only composer. Hope you enjoy. What are some of your, what kind of music were you listening to? What are some of those earlier influences on you as you're growing up?
Oh man, Super Metroid or the Mega Man or Mega Man X or the Castlevania franchise, Chrono Trigger. I still have a vivid memory
So good.
of at the time that Chrono Trigger was out. My dad actually worked for a video rental store, and so like that's how I ended up renting and playing a lot of games. Was that like basically I could go in, and if it was Friday night and the game hadn't been rented out by somebody else, I could go pick out a game. And I still remember like going in and like seeing the box art for Chrono Trigger on the shelf and being like, oh man, this game looks really cool, like I should check this out, like knowing nothing about it. But I think at one point we had Nintendo Power for a bit, had Game Pro magazine for a bit, I think, or however long the free subscription, however many months of it they would give you or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, those games, because I don't think I was really thinking about it as much like, oh, I love this game because I love this music, but I loved the world that the game puts you into, and then the music became a part of that.
What's your path, and how do you bump in or how do you get to Mario Maker?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, great question. I had a Wii for a really long time because, of course, once you become an adult and you have a little bit of money, you're like, okay, now I'm going to go buy all those game systems that I couldn't have as a kid, and now I can spend my Saturdays, playing any Nintendo 64 game I want, yes.
Totally.
And so I had a Wii, and then the Wii broke. Around the time that my Wii broke, I like so many others on YouTube, I actually stumbled across, it was actually first Carl Sagan videos. And I saw him playing Mario Maker, and I'm like, what? There's a game where you can make your own Mario Maker levels? And I don't even know what I had been watching on YouTube that caused YouTube to feed me, a Carl Sagan video. Yeah, I don't know what in the algorithm, like how I stumbled upon a Carl Sagan video. Yeah. But I watched some Carl Sagan videos. I think at the time, he was still only streaming once a week, and so he didn't have a ton of videos up. So then after I had felt like I kind of gotten caught up on the Carl's videos. I was like, oh, Carl keeps mentioning this Pooh guy. Who's this Pooh guy? And then, I find Grand Pooh Bear's channel, and I'm like, and Pooh's putting out content like every day because Pooh's streaming every day. And I'm like, oh man, look, I have all these additional YouTube videos to watch. And so, I was watching a video of Pooh where, at that point, his love of Africa and everything had been known. And Africa is tangential to like several other further points that we'll discuss later. It's crazy how much a Toto song has impacted my life. But there was a video of Pooh playing a music level, an African music level. And I think it was maybe one of the first YouTube videos I'd seen where I'm like, whoa, you can make a music level in Mario Maker too? Like, that's crazy, because I did have Mario Paint. Again, speaking to, my parents' desire to emulate our creativity, like that was one of the games that like they felt like, oh, well, this isn't a game. This is more of like a creative, infotainment sort of thing. And so we had Mario Paint, and I immediately recognized that like, oh, this is like music editor in Mario Paint, but like in Mario Maker, that's really cool. And so Pooh was playing the music level, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I think that was the point where I was like, okay, now I have to get a Wii U. Now I have to get Mario Maker, because like I very pompously thought like, oh man, if I could do this, I bet I could make like really dope music levels. Like I was like, I know how the mechanics of the thing work. If I, could get in there and make it, like I just immediately became curious, like how robust, how full of music could I make a Mario Maker level, sort of issue that challenge to myself. And so, yeah, I bought the Wii U. And so like Barb had made a joke one day about Tarzan Boy, that song by Baltimore, which now more people know of because of a Grand Prix World 1 and 2. And I was like, oh my goodness, Tarzan Boy works perfectly in Mario Maker. It's the right tempo for the cheetah auto scroll. And so I'm going to make a Tarzan Boy level for Barb. And if I just go into his chat every day and I just submit the level every day for viewer levels, there's a chance that it will be randomly picked. I am in no way a level designer when it comes to like creating platforming or understanding what is blind. And the fact that people have nice things to say about the platforming my level, I still consider a blessing to this day. Like, I think I've gotten better at it, but like, I didn't start Mario Maker to make really awesome platform. I wanted to make music in Mario Maker, like everything else was just like secondary. It was basically like I saw music levels where had used up all of their budget, the music, and so like it was just like Mario running through a spike maze, and I'm like, can I do something more than that? So anyways, sorry, tangential there.
Sure, no problem.
So yeah, I patiently waited in Barb's chat until the day when my level finally got picked, and like of course Barb's big DK fan, and Mario Maker 1 you had the costumes, and so like I did whatever what needed to be done, beat however many normal or expert levels to get the DK costume. So I made Tarzan Boy with the DK costume, and like Barb played it, and he was like, oh man, like I really feel like somebody made this level just for me, and I'm like, you're dang right I did. Of course I did.